Do you want to go on a backpacking trip but don't know where to start? Well, in this video I'm going to give you a step-by-step guide for how to plan a backpacking trip and the things I wish I knew before I booked my first one. If you don't know where you want to go in the world, go on my channel and check out all the things I wish I knew videos, along with other travel documentaries from Southeast Asia, Central America and Europe. See where you want to go, then come back to this. So this is the things I wish I knew before I planned my very first backpacking trip. Step 1 is research. So make sure it is possible to get from place to place. In Southeast Asia that will be fine. In Central America it's a little bit harder. In Europe it's a lot easier. However, if you've only got a month's span, you want to make sure it's possible to get from your start destination to your end destination. So i.e. where you're booking both the flights. Also check government travel restrictions. COVID's obviously kind of gone now, but in terms of vaccinations maybe, in terms of border closures. So I'm going on a trip next week to Azerbaijan, Armenia and Georgia. However, some of the borders are closed, so that means I have less time as I've got to fly or take overnight trains. So it's stuff to be aware of before you go to the region, and that includes any violence or protests that could kick off at certain times. So do your research on the region and then we can move on to actually booking stuff. Step 2, and that is book your inbound and outbound flights. Now personally I always use Google Flights as they have a map feature which allows you to see the cheapest place to fly into in the region. If you're set for dates and you're not very flexible at all, you can put in your Saturday back or whatever dates you're flying to, and you can still see the cheapest. However, if you've got any time in the next, say, month to fly in or out, then you can select this on Google Flights and it'll give you the cheapest dates to fly into. Always move them about a little bit, maybe plus or minus 2 days to find the cheapest flights, and also check to see it's not actually cheaper to fly into the airport you're planning flying back from. So switch up the cities. That's the cheapest way I've found, and then you can either book through Skyscanner or the website. Always try and book through the airline's website, especially if it's your first backpacking trip, to be safer. Sometimes there are other companies on Google Flights, but when you get to the end they charge more or whatever happens there. I'm not too sure, but it's to get you to click on them. Sometimes they work. If you Google them, they might be dodgy, so I'd always recommend booking through the airline. Step 3, and there's no need to plan absolutely everything, but step 3 is to book your first few nights in the hostels and your onward transport. This is so you can adjust to any jet lag you might have if you're going to the other side of the world, and you don't have to worry about booking your hostel when you arrive or your onward transport from there. I'd always advise booking a social hostel for your first stay. It might be scary at first, however it's plunging you straight into it, and you'll also be able to get any tips from other travellers about what's going on in the region immediately, because people will talk about it. If you want to stay in a private room in a hostel, that's fine, but I'm a big advocate for dorms. You can speak to people and it's a lot more comfortable to meet people in the rooms than anywhere else, particularly if you are solo. I always use Hostelworld to book my hostels. You can also use booking.com. They both offer lowest price guarantee, so it will be cheaper than it will anywhere else. However, on Hostelworld, you've got to filter it from highest to lowest rated, and you can also shrink the budget. So, for example, £0 to £15 hostels. That's how I do it, and I never stay in anything really below an 8. So try and stay at everything above that. I look for hostels planning activities. That's always good, so you can meet other people, preferably with a pool, and the dorms having curtains. Those are usually the 3 things I look for when I book my very first hostel. Also, if you book your onward transport to your next destination, you can make it cancelable in case you meet people and want to travel with them. Just make sure you haven't got too quick a turnaround time, especially after a long flight and jet lag, because you want to actually enjoy the first place, not just use it as a stop. Also, if you have booked your flight back and you're going for a set period of time, you want to book your hostel on the last couple of nights in that destination. That's just to give you breathing room in case it does sell out, because if it sells out, it's happened to me a few times, and you're scrambling around for expensive accommodation. You don't want to do that. So just book a hostel. It's free cancellation on Hostel World up until about a week before, so it's risk free, and it's definitely not worth paying expensive prices for your last night. With one more step to go, it'd be great if you could subscribe to my YouTube. Again, you got all of this completely for free, so it would mean a lot if you could help me towards 1,000 and subscribe. Step 4 is even more research. So you want to be reading blogs like The Broke Backpacker and Against the Compass. Those are two good ones. Personally, I don't watch YouTube videos. However, if you do want to, there's a whole load on my channel. I don't usually like to spoil seeing a place before I actually go. However, there's loads of tip videos on my channel you can just go back and watch, especially from Southeast Asia and Central America. In terms of research as well, you want to make sure you can get from place to place. Watch out for Easter, for Christmas, for New Year, or any public holidays which might suspend any buses. Or it might be extra busy booking hotels. For example, if a Grand Prix or a big sporting event's on at that time, it can trick you out if you don't know about it. So make sure you are aware of that just by Googling. You also want to get your travel insurance, any visas you might need, for example, Vietnam or Cambodia. You can get them at the border, but I advise just doing it in advance. You don't want the stress whilst you're there, and borders are painful and slow enough anyway without having to fill in forms that you could have done beforehand. Make sure as well of any border closures, like I said before, and take any vaccinations you need. So again, that's all on the government or NHS or health insurance websites. Just make sure you know it all so it doesn't surprise you when you land after a long flight. So that was your simple 4-step guide to booking your very first backpacking trip. I know it seems overwhelming, but trust me, it'll be so worth it when you first get there. That's what I did first time I travelled in Central America. It was very, very scary on the plane, but it was some of the best travelling experience I've ever had. So for more tip videos, go back and watch the Things I Wish I Knew series and all the travel documentaries on the channel. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next week.